We're back with a new video. JasonBlaha has kindly made for us to react to again. So it's T-Man, and we're going to react to the gym, lifting, recruiting, fitness, gear slave himself, Jason Blaha's video. So Blaha says, how important is strict form for muscle growth? Well, it isn't important for muscle growth, but it is important so you don't get injured.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the idea of good form and gaining muscle. And this is something you see people talk about a lot. And
I love this one. Good form and gaining muscle. Form has nothing to do with gaining a muscle. A form is not going to build a muscle. But if you have poor form on the deadlift, you could injure your back. See what I mean? And I don't know, the most susceptible areas that could possibly get injured. See what I mean? Like the spinal cord is probably the most affected of all places in your body because it just is. And it's a weak area. You want to strengthen it so it doesn't get injured. That's the whole point. Bodybuilding, the whole point about bodybuilding is to build your body strong enough so it never gets injured. But again, people forgo the eccentrics to build their body to get strong, and they start doing, comfortable exercise. I call it comfortable lifting slaves. They start sticking to concentric lifting. They forgo eccentrics and start lifting concentrically. Remember, when the weight goes up concentrically, it's heavy. But when it goes down, it goes 2 times lighter when it goes down. And most people forgo the eccentric going down anyways. They just kind of move their arms in a way or their body in a certain position. So they don't get the full extension of the eccentric anyways, regardless whether it's going down or not. Now, whether you bring an eccentric down slowly, remember, it's still coming down 2 times lighter. And in order for muscles to grow eccentrically, they have to go 2 times heavier than when they went up in the opposite direction. That's why it doesn't work for anybody in the gym when they do eccentric concentric. Now, if you want to make it work, your eccentric, even though it's going down lighter, then you're going to have to overwork those muscles. That's the difference. You're going to have to overwork that eccentric movement, whatever it is you're doing there with the concentric going heavy. You're going to have to overwork it to get that eccentric to come back. That is one way of getting it. Or you can overload the eccentric where you can't make it for a full concentric. And then there's people that try to bust through plateaus. They just do eccentric work. Then there's people that just do concentric work. See what I mean? See the difference? Look, one more time. People in the gym, when they start lifting, they do a full range of motion, eccentric, concentric, right? Okay, there are some people that do that. But if you notice with time, the people, they don't do that anymore. They don't do they do very little eccentric work. They do more concentric, and then they bring it down partially for an eccentric. Because why? Because they're scared they could get injured because they're weak. They're weak on the eccentric. That's the whole point about bodybuilding, to build yourself strong enough in the eccentric that you'll be stronger on the concentric eventually. And then there's people that just do concentric work where they just press the weight. They try pressing weights concentrically without any eccentric at all whatsoever. See what I mean? Trying to get more of this neural drive. They call it neural drive. Try to recruiting fucking motor units and neural drive and some androgen receptors for force production. That's where your androgens, they bind. That's the reason why steroids are popular, because when you start lifting weights, your body starts widening these receptors. They get more of them, they widen, and your hormones have somewhere to bind, giving you maximum force production to move a heavy weight. See what I mean? So when you inject steroids, the molecule binds to those receptors for maximum force production, but the receptor does not control the mass of the limb muscles. What controls the mass of the limb muscles? Well, it's a stage of events. It's the concentric exercise, the damage, the progenitor cell, satellite cell, full stop, myostat, these nuclei, these sarcomeres, these myofibrillars, and muscle fibers, and yada, yada, yada. They control the mass of the limb muscles. See what I mean? So when people say that, oh, steroids build muscles, no, they don't. They bind to the receptor. They can stimulate protein synthesis, and they can give you maximal force production. They can increase your force production, but they themselves cannot build muscles.
Give a little bit of clarity on this, explain kind of how it works in the real world, and then kind of explain what's been found by researchers over the years. Because people argue about good form. They're like, well, we need good form to get the most muscle growth. Other people argue it's just about injuries. And here's what I'm going to break down as far as good form goes.
Yeah, good form and injuries. Like I said, if you built yourself up strong enough with the weight, if you built your body moving with the weight eccentrically, then you wouldn't have an issue with that. You wouldn't get injured. That's the whole point. The whole point in bodybuilding is to build yourself big and strong so you never get injured. But if you don't build yourself big and strong, then you're susceptible to getting injured. Why? Because you're weak. You have a weak body. You may have a force production. People don't even understand this. You can be. I don't know how to. This guy just talked about it this morning. I saw his video. He even mentioned me in his video. His name is Martini. So you could move a heavy weight, but you could be in poor health, in poor shape. You could be in bad shape, but yet still move a heavy weight. You know what I mean? In other words, you could be athletically in poor shape, but you can actually move a heavy weight. Like old people, I've seen them move heavy bags of whatever stuff into the car. An old guy moving heavy stuff into a car, but yet he has no power. He couldn't run down the street. If he fought with you, you'd probably beat him up and knock him down in the street. But he had enough strength to lift heavy shit and put it in the car. See what I mean? You can literally squat a heavy weight and still have some nerve problem or something, having problems moving your legs backward or something, but yet you still squatted like 500 pounds. But you have no power. You can't make it up stairwells very well, or going down, or running down the street, or jump. You can't even jump up and down. You can't even manage jumping up and down. Yet you could squat 500 pounds. So what does that mean? See what I mean? What does that mean? Are you strong? You want to take care of your physical first. The physical strength is the most important strength. The more physically inclined you are, strong, then you won't have these problems. But if you just focus concentrically on a nervous system strength, you are going to notice that your punching abilities, your athletic abilities, like you go into a room and you punch a bag, it's going to be very bad. Like it's not going to look good. And any athletic endeavors that you think you have, you're going to notice they're very bad. You won't be able to do flares or any type of gymnastics. Your sprinting abilities are very bad. A whole bunch of stuff, bro. And as time goes by, you get older, you lose power. As you get older, you lose power. These are things you learn with experience as you get older. I'm telling you from experience.
Keeping in mind good form is a relative thing. It's relative to your goals. It's relative to the person's structure. So on different exercises, good form is not always the same for every person and goal. So let's just
think about it. Why do you think old people take a hormone replacement therapy? All these people now, because of loss of power. So they take hormones as a means to combat these problems. Well, they're going to tell you low testosterone. That's not necessarily the issue. The issue, a lot of it's power and a bunch of other things too, but it's a lot to do with power and stuff and health and power and whatever.
That out of the way, but generally speaking, what we think of as good form most of the time is to where you're not bending at weird angles, you're not cheating or swinging too much, right? You're keeping lifts fairly strict, right? What's the idea? We're keeping lifts fairly strict, and through pretty good ranges of motion, right? We're trying not to do half reps. We're not trying not to use body English and swing, and we're trying to generally keep tension on muscles. Now, again, certain stuff can be different when we talk about deadlifting and optimal leverages for deadlifting and benching and stuff for maxes and competition, but those have their own kind of rules for good form. So I'm saying it's just general, and I mean very loose guidelines, right? That's what we mean by good form. Okay. In other words, not cheating weight up, using weights that are relatively light. So, I mean, kind of like you're seeing with these curls. Can I curl heavier?
Again, why are you cheating reps up? Think about it. You're throwing the weight up in the air concentrically. You're throwing weights around. See what I mean? And then it's really controlled going down eccentrically. You're not really bending your arms fully extending, because if you bend your arm after throwing that weight up in the air, you're going to get injured. Why? Because you're weak. You're physically weak.
Dumbbells, yes. Can I do 14, 15 reps really strict like this?
A good indicator is this guy that just got hurt. I put him in the community section. He's doing a video now talking about people squatting or something. I just saw a video on him. He's full of tattoos and stuff. He was arm wrestling, remember? And he snapped his arm wrestling. The guy snapped his arm. You heard it pop and shit. That is a weakness right there. He's weak. He's very weak. If you're getting an injury like that, you're weak. Here's the thing, what I discovered. So a couple of years ago before COVID, I did move heavy weight. And then I started with friends in the gym. We were fooling around. I started doing I shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. I started doing these concentric, heavy, weight stuff, like putting it on my back and doing weird stuff. And then I realized it weakened me. And then we had some weather change here. There was a weird, I don't know, we had this weird weather. And I went out to go to somebody's house. And I remember going down the same block. I've been there before. And then I noticed it was wet. It was slippery. There was a lot of ice. It was just a really bad, that was just a bad year. It was unfortunate, a bad year. There was a lot of snow there, a lot of ice. I tried to avoid it. I somehow the ice grabbed my leg. It dragged it towards this cement block in the corner. My foot got wedged in there. It got stuck, and my body twisted all the way around, and I twisted my ankle. I realized when I went to the hospital later, they told me that the tibia and the fibula on the other side, they were broken. They were broken on both sides. I knew it because my foot was like dislocated too. They had to relocate it. It was fucking hanging like on the side, like literally. I knew I crippled myself. I go, holy shit, I crippled myself. So I knew that even though I fell and twisted, whatever, had I been younger and stronger, that would have never happened. But the fact that I moved these heavy weight concentrically without doing eccentric work to get bone to constantly get stronger, it weakened me. So concentric exercises, in my knowledge, my experience tells me weakening. It weakens the shit out of you, and it made me feel weak. That's the thing. The heavier I went just doing concentric stuff made me weaker. What makes you stronger is going with gravity, doing movements with gravity eccentrically. That's what makes your bones and your muscles stronger, and your ligaments and tendons. Just like it says in science, they did not lie. They are not lying to you.
No, I'm using 28-pound dumbbells here, right? Because if I want the full range of motion without swinging my torso, because notice I'm only twisting a little bit to bring it up on the way up, right? If I want to get that and get a squeeze at the top, I can't do that with 40s.
Here's another thing. Concentric exercise is not associated with regeneration. So every time you do these eccentric exercises, you are regenerating. Believe me, I look so much better. My neck area, my face. The fact that I'm eating animal products, that's number one. Your cosmetic look, that cosmetic physical look, you definitely want it to change, okay? And then there's the strength level, is eccentric exercises. You want to do as many eccentric exercises as you can to strengthen your body, your ligaments, tendons, muscles, bones, and everything. And you want to stick to the proper diet, an animal-based, high-nutrient diet. And you'll notice the physical changes in you will start to come rapidly. The first year, the second year, I'm into my second year already. I look so much better, man. People tell me, they go, holy shit, bro, you look so much better. They go, you looked sick, kind of sickly before. Because I was eating these weird foods because I don't know, I was bored during COVID, ate bad foods. I was doing bad exercises too at the time. I was fooling around too much eccentric or concentric work, fooling around because it was lazy kind of. So yeah, it's something you got to snap out of that, man. This is bad. This is bad what he's doing, Blaha. Look at his body. The food that he eats are creating this ugly cosmetic look. Remember, you are what you eat. So you eating tofu and everything will make you look like a tofu. He looks like tofu. See what I mean? His hair could possibly grow back if he was to eat animal products, which are natural to humans. And he would get a lot stronger and look a lot more powerful if he did eccentric exercise. But the problem with Blaha is he's stubborn. He still sticks to doing these concentric exercises and eating tofu, rice, yams, and cereals and coffees and weird shit all day.
I'm gonna have to swing him. I'm gonna have to cheat him a little bit with 40s or 40s.
So tell me, how can you change your physical? How can your physical change if you don't change what you're doing? How can it change if you don't change anything? See what I mean? You're looking for the same, he's looking for a different outcome, doing the same crappy lifts and the same crappy diet. It's impossible. It's impossible. To get a different outcome, right? A better outcome, you have to do something else. And Blaha's not willing to do that.
Lives. And, so we can argue if that's worth it. So, and again, same thing with benching and bouncing the bar, lifting the butt off the bench. You guys will notice when I get to the bench coming up here, I pause every rep. Everything is stacked, heels stay flat, butt stays on the bench, like when I'm doing the rep work at 315 later. So this is what we're talking about by good form. And form doesn't, I don't even mean form has to be perfect on everything. We're just talking about good form. Okay, right? So what's the point? Research generally doesn't show that it's necessary for muscle growth. In other words, loose form
doesn't do anything for muscle growth. Look how he tries to show you his shitty physique. It's like, I'm proud to show you what I've accomplished to make a crappy physique, eating tofu shit crap food and doing these stupid concentric exercises which do not remodel your body. They do not regenerate or remodel your body differently.
Necessarily seem to interfere.
There is no ultrastructural muscle changes in his body at all whatsoever, ass cheek squeezing these weights at the top.
With muscle growth, it just doesn't. Now, is that to say that it can't? No, it can't.
There is no muscle growth in concentric exercise, and the eccentric has already adapted to your exercises. So when it goes down, it's going down really light. And sometimes you're not even bringing it down for the eccentric. You're foregoing it.
Yeah, if it's loose enough, you're losing a lot of tension on a muscle, and the muscles you're trying to work are no longer really the muscles that fail on the exercise, then yeah, we could argue it will reduce muscle growth. But we see plenty of examples in bodybuilding, and I'm not talking even the modern guys on tons of drugs. If you look at various bodybuilding champions over the years, you see both groups. You see people who got crazy jacked doing lots of cheat reps and a lot of swinging and momentum, and we would think of as loose form. Okay? Now, your context being, do they probably have a really good mind-muscle connection? Yeah. But these are usually people who have...
Do they have a mind-muscle connection? That's all made up. That's made up by the phony drug addicts in the industry. That's all crap. It's all made up. It's garbage. There's no such thing, mind-muscle connection.
Have enough body awareness, though, who they kind of know if they're feeling the muscle or not.
Yeah, you want to feel the muscle. You can feel things going on there. Tension on muscles, the way you're moving them around, and you're cautious as to what you're doing there so you don't get injured. That's the whole point.
Does that make sense? They may be using some swinging and some hip drive and things on their rows, or even their curls. But is the primary muscle failing? Are their lats the muscle that's failing, reaching muscle failure on the rows? Okay, then their lats are probably going to grow still. Are their biceps the muscle that is reaching failure on their curls, even if they're doing cheat curls? If it is, then their biceps are going to grow. And if they're a genetic freak on a lot of drugs, then their biceps and their lats are going to really, really, really grow.
No, they're not going to grow. They're not going to grow doing concentric exercises. Again, I'll explain this in science like they say in NCBI. A unique feature of eccentric exercise is that untrained subjects become stiff and sore the next day due to what? Muscle damage. And then with a second week of a repeated bout of eccentric exercise, there's much less damage. Why is there less damage? Because it has adapted to your eccentric part coming down. It has adapted to that eccentric part coming down. Get it? How did it adapt? One of the proposed methods is that there was an increase in sarcomere number in series. And also there would be in parallel as well, because they go hand in hand. There is in series and in parallel. That's what happened. So you got muscle, and so now that you got this muscle, it is resilient from what? That's where muscle builds. Why does it build eccentrically? Because to protect. It's the protective effect from what? From getting injured. Why does your body build muscle? To protect itself from what? From getting injured. Get it? Yeah. See? And that makes you stronger from getting what? Injuries. So now that it's protected by having to have growing more muscles, what you guys call newbie gains, or hard gainer, whatever you want, newbie gains or whatever. Now it's adapted. It's got muscle. See what I mean? So what do you need to do to try to build more muscle? What do you need to do? Well, you need to go heavier on the eccentric. See what I mean? You need to do something specific on the eccentric. Not only do you need to go a little bit heavier, sometimes you don't have to go heavier. Sometimes you have to do more eccentric work. In other words, you have to overwork it to get that muscle to re-damage again, to build more sarcomeres and myofibrillars and in parallel in series and yada, 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 yada. Get it? See what I mean? But you're not doing that because you're going with gravity. And if you're going with gravity, it's going down 2 times lighter. See what I mean? There you go.
Because they're getting tension on them. And that's the end of the day. As long as the tension is on the muscles, you're getting a training stimulus. As long as the muscles that you want to grow are the ones that are the limiting factor in the lift, and you're getting real close to muscle failure, or that one muscle fails, right? And you have to cheat more to keep the weight moving. Then
It failed because you become an endurance athlete. Concentric exercises are associated with what? Endurance, performance, and endurance. So why endurance? Because, again, I'll use this as a description. If you run up a stairwell, in the up direction, to up against gravity, that's going to make you tired and exhausted. You're going to use a lot of energy. But if you run down a stairwell, there's less energy being used, you're not exhausted, and it causes damage to the legs because they're moving eccentrically, they're stretching eccentrically, so they cause damage, and then there's a regeneration. But there's no damage or growth going up a stairwell. There's just exhaustion. Get it? You're exhausting yourself. That's why I say people are skating uphill in the gym. They're constantly thinking in their back of their mind, I'm building a muscle though because I'm lifting heavy concentrically. No, you're not. You're an endurance athlete exhausting yourself. That's all you're doing is exhausting your muscles. That's why you're never building any muscles. That's why you got to do bulk diets, creatine, testosterone, steroids, SARMs, and all these phony things. Get it, dude?
and you're gonna see good muscle growth, right? It's just the way it happens. Still about tension on the muscle. All right.
You are not going to see any muscle growth.
So then people would say, why use good form? Well, for 3 reasons, really. Number one, you may be cheating so much that you're...
No, using good form just means you prevent yourself from getting an injury eccentrically. That's all, because that's where all injuries happen, eccentrically, not concentrically.
Losing tension. I've seen people cheat on curls so bad to where they're completely unloaded at the top because they're trying to get into a giant wrist curl at the top. It's all forearms and shoulders. and then they're not locking at the bottom. They're missing.
So how do you prevent yourself from getting injured eccentrically? You need to do eccentric exercises. Why? To build more muscle. Get it? And then you won't get injured. Da. Yeah.
The bottom, and they're just doing a big hip extension. And I've seen guys so bad with that, it's like, yeah, they're probably not getting much bicep growth. In that case, it's not working. Because they're using form that's so bad with the ego lifting, they're really not even working the muscle they want anymore. And that's a problem.
Think about it. What is making you strong right now physically? I'm not talking about lifting weights in the gym. What is making you physically strong right now walking around this planet Earth? Your muscles, right? Okay. If you increase your muscle count, will you not be stronger? Yeah, of course you will. Duh. See what I mean? But, oh, I know. You're lifting concentrically, getting the nervous system to shock the nervous system to whatever, to lift a heavy weight. Oh, man, against gravity. And then you're going to say, well, I'm strong because I can do that. Yeah, but you're still weak. You're still susceptible. You're still weak. You have a small body. You're still weak. You got a small body, you're weak, and you're still susceptible to getting injured. Anything that you do eccentrically, you'll get injured because you're weak, because you never built any muscle. Get it? So anything that comes down, anything that went up that heavy comes down, can damage the fuck out of you. That's why it cripples. People get crippled. They get crippled lifting weights. They get crippled moving heavy stuff. They crippled their back. Something falls, whatever. They get crippled because they have a weak body. They're weak people walking around. Then they go to arm wrestling. Some of these weak people, they think, well, I lifted concentrically. I got a lot of force production. They go there, and then they get their arms snapped, their bones snapped, their arms snapped back and shit, broken and this and that, whatever. It's hilarious watching this, but whatever.
So in some cases, yes, it may be costing you muscle growth, number one. Now, in some cases, some guys can make a case for eccentric overload because a little bit of body English lets them have a heavier eccentric rep. That could be worth something. In some cases, that can produce its own unique solid growth stimulus. But in the lab, it's been...
No, really, Blaha? Of course it does. Eccentric is what builds muscles. Oh, he's going to talk about the lab again. That Martini guy, he talked about that again, that lab thing too, about Coach Blaha. He doesn't really directly say Coach Blaha, just as Coach. Yeah, Goof Coach here is gonna mention this. Yeah, and I know what he meant by in these like the 30, 40 years ago people, I've seen that too before. He was talking about where people would do like bench pressing and then they would have them do all these eccentric reps at the end of the bench press. Yeah, they did. They used to do that. There are all kinds of things they used to do. They used to do unaccustomed exercises, which we know would cause this damage, come back. They would do like just eccentric reps without the concentric. Or, like I said, you forego the full concentric to lift a heavy weight eccentrically just to lower it. That's the whole point. There are many ways to get eccentric exercises to build muscle. You could do all kinds of things.
Found good form versus loose form doesn't seem to be a significant difference. As long as the target muscle is being worked, as long as that's the one that's really getting the brunt of the tension, you're going to see good growth. That's just how it is. So what else are we looking at? Injuries.
You're going to always see growth eccentrically, provided you did enough of it to get it to damage eccentrically.
That's a big one. Your injury risks are higher, right? People don't get hurt too often on bench the way I'm benching here. Notice perfect wrist stacking. Perfect wrist stacking at the bottom. I'm not bouncing, not bridging. It's all controlled, it's all paused. It's a little bit of an arch, not a lot. Right? It's rare to get hurt doing this unless your drugs are really high. And I'm doing rep work at 315.
He's adapted to all these exercises. How is he going to get hurt? He's not even doing anything vigorously here. He's only doing like 2-3 sets.
I'm an older guy, and it's all strict. Could I probably bounce more weight? Sure. But I'm trying to bench here, guys. I'm trying to bench real strict. Trying to bench with my feet flat is the goal, right? As I get those heels stuck in at the bottom, stacking the wrist, bending the bar, lowering it under control, good control eccentric, pausing, driving it up. Okay? Low injury risk. Pretty high on the list. Right? forces me to use a little lighter weight, but it's still pretty dang good weight. Repping 3.
That's it. 3 reps. 3 reps is not enough to do anything. Okay, whatever.
15, I'll take it. I think plenty of people will be happy with that. So it's that, but then we also have to think of recovery. If we're cheating and swinging on everything, and we're adding extra stress that we don't need to the body that is not causing growth, is it helping us? In other words, you know, you have to think about if you're doing cheat rows with an extra 150 pounds. Like I can put another 150 pounds on the bar and strap up and cheat row more than my really strict rows. Right? I'd probably do close to double the weight. How much extra compressive stress and axial loading and fatigue is that putting on my structure? A lot.
Okay.
Will that reduce the amount of training volume I can recover from? Yeah, a fair amount, especially at my age. 48 guys, it's recovery becomes really serious.
48 guys, recovery becomes very serious. Me, 57. How about me at 57? How's recovery going for me? I never think about age or anything. I don't even see my age. I don't if you keep thinking about your age, then you're going to be that age if you keep thinking that. In the back of my mind, you are what you think about. I only think about being 30 years old. If you think 30, you'll be 30 and you'll look 30. Here's the thing. If you think 30, you'll start to look 30 and you'll be 30. Believe me, you'll be 30. But if you think like Blaha, 48 or 47 or 48 or whatever, well, yeah, you're gonna look your age. But in Blaha's case, he's just accelerated aging because he's addicted to doing concentric exercises, which are associated with accelerated aging. Get it, bro? I'm not joking. Endurance exercise is associated with accelerated aging.
It becomes harder. You have to think of those things of, if I'm just stricter and I don't beat myself up as much with cheating a heavier weight, can I do a couple more sets and recover from it? Can I get a couple more growth sets in? Okay.
A couple more growth sets? What growth sets? Concentric exercises not grow muscles.
Can I get some more quality work in? Yeah, absolutely. And if we can do that, is that potentially worth some growth if our goal is to maximize muscle growth, by getting a little more training volume in? I think the answer is yes. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today.
The answer is no. Don't do anything that he's doing because you'll just fail along with him. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Don't you think about that? Like, subscribe, support the channel. Yep, more failure by Blaha. He's never going to change, bro. Looking for a different outcome, doing the same stuff.